Hi besties, welcome to Caddy's Alloy. Thank you for subscribing, and if you're new here, you're in the right place to be. Please click on the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up and comment below. So in today's class, I'll be taking you how to draft a princess dart bustier pattern. So before we go on, this bustier class is for beginners. It's beginners friendly and it's for people that want to up their game. So to understand this class better, you must have had prior knowledge on how to draft the basic bodies and how to insert your dart. So if you are new here, you are welcome. You can check through my channels. I had a class on how to draft a half-scale bodies, or after the end of the class I'm going to drop a link to the class. So after watching how to draft a basic bodies, then we can move on to this class. So to draft a princess dart bustier pattern, I'm going to start by drafting the front, then later on I'm going to move to the back. And for the back, I can decide to draft it with using a princess dart, or I can just make use of the normal dart. So let's move on to draft our pattern. So to draft a princess dart, there are some measurements we'll be working with, which is the shoulder measurement, which is going to be 14. We have the bust measurement, which is going to be 33. We have the waist measurement, which is going to be 26, and the under bust, the bust point, our bust span, and the length of our pattern. So that's all we'll be working with. So let me start by drafting. So I'll be making use of my pattern paper, my scissors, my ruler, and my marker. So you can see I've already folded my pattern paper into two. So this edge is where I'm going to start from. This will be my center front, and then I'll move to indicate my point. Then the first thing I'm going to do is to measure out my shoulder to shoulder measurement. So my shoulder to shoulder measurement is 14. So I'm going to place my tape at the center, which is my center front. Then I'm going to, so that 14, I'm going to divide that 14 by 2. It's going to give me 7. So I'm going to mark 7. Then after that, I'm going to mark my chest line. Remember I said in my previous class, I said your shoulder to shoulder measurement, same thing as your chest line measurement. So I'll be taking 7. Then remember I'm going to take 1 inch for my shoulder slant or shoulder slope. Then that 1 inch plus the 7 inches, that will be 8. So I'm going to take 8 inches. Then as for my bust point, the bust point is 9. Then I'm going to take that also. And also for the underbust is 13 inches. Then I'm going to note down 13 inches. So as for the half length is 15. I'm going to mark that also. Then after that, I'm going to add 2 inches extra for the seam allowance or sewing allowance. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to run a line across my point. Then I'm going to do that. So the reason why I'm running a line is to indicate my line, that is to know where I'm going to work with. This is to avoid unnecessary mistakes. Okay. So ensure you draw a straight line to avoid inaccuracy. Okay, so I'm going to cut the excess fabric out. Before then, let me indicate my lines. This is my chest line, this is my bust line, which is also bust point, my bust point. This is my under bust, this is the half length, and this is the length of, that's the same line. This is also known as waistline. Is either half length or the waistline. So I'm going to cut the excess out so that I will know what to focus on. So assuming you want to cut on a fabric and you don't want to waste unnecessary fabric, what you are going to do is to take out the biggest part of your measurement. The biggest part of the measurement here is the bust, which is 33, because the waist is 26. At times you might be in a situation whereby waist is going to be the biggest part of the measurement, so you're going to use the biggest the biggest value of your measurement. So assuming you want to cut on a fabric, what you're going to do is to divide the bust measurement divided by 4. Then you add 2 inches extra just in case. Then you add another 2 inches extra for the same allowance. So the value you get, you are going to use that to cut out the fabric. So because this is a pattern, so I don't need to cut the exact measurement I need, because this is a pattern. But assuming you want to cut on a fabric and to avoid using excess fabric, just divide the biggest part of your measurement by 4, then add 4 inches to it, then use that value to cut out your fabric. So that's how to go about it. So after indicating my lines, I'm going to mark the same 7 I took there. I'm going to mark it, then run a line from the shoulder. Okay, so remember, so our chest line, bust point, on the bust, half length, and on the length. And after drafting this, the next thing for me to do is to draft out the neck width and the neck depth. So it depends on the type of neck you want to achieve. But for this pattern, I just draw a normal round neck. So for the neck width, that is the wideness of my neck, is going to be 3 inches, and the depth of my neck is going to be 3 inches also. It can be more than that, depends on the pattern of neck you want to draw. So I'm going to use my curve ruler to draw it out. Okay, so this is my neck depth and the neck width. After indicating the neck depth, the next thing for me to do is to indicate my shoulder slant or shoulder slope, which is going to be 1 inches. And I'm going to mark 1 inches, then connect it to the neckline. Okay. So after doing that, the next thing for me to do is to take out my bust span. And our bust span is also known as the nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 divided by 2, that will be 4. So I'm going to take that on my bust point. I'm going to take out 4 inches. And I'm also going to place my tape on the under bust and also take the same 4 inches I took on the bust point. And I'll also do the same thing on the waistline, mark out the 4 inches. Then I also do the same on the same line and take out the 4 inches. So after I must have done that, I'll take my tape and place it on the bust point over here and come out by 0.5 inch. And if you check my previous video, I explained how to do that. The reason why I come down by 0.5 is to avoid any pointy lines, pointy edges. So I'm going to draw a straight line to make the point. So the next thing for me to do is to take out my armhole. But before doing that, I'm going to divide my, remember this line is also the same thing as the armhole line. Then take the 7, I'm going to divide this 7 I took here by 2. That's going to give me 3.5. I'm going to indicate 3.5. Then on the point, I'm going to come in by 0.5 inches. Remember in my previous class, I said the back bust is different from the front, but the same as the front armhole line is different from the back armhole line. So this is my point. Then I'm going to place my curve ruler and connect it to the armhole. You can see, draw it out. So this is my, you can see, this is my armhole line. So after I must have done that, I'm going to go up and measure and take out 3 inches. I decide to use the same 3.5 or take 3 inches. So after dividing the armhole measurements, which is 7 divided by 2, it's going to give me 3.5. Then I'll deduct 0.5 from the half of my armhole, or use the same 3.5. Again, I said from here I'm going to divide my armhole by 2, which is going to give me 3.5, because 7 divided by 2 is going to be 3.5. Then I'm going to take 0.5 from it, that is, I'm going to go up by 0.5, or I can decide to maintain the half of my armhole. So this is the 0.5 I took out. Then from that point, I'm going to place my ruler, then connect it to this point. You can see. So you can see I connected the line to meet the bust point line. Then after I must have done that, I'll come down to the under bust. So this part is going to be my center piece, that is the center of my princess dart. So this is the center piece. So on the center piece, I'm going to come down on the under bust and take out 0.5 inch. Then I'll come down to the waistline or the half length and take out 0.5 inch, and also do the same thing to the same line, or the length of the pattern, and take out 0.5 inch. After I must have done that, then I'll rule a line to connect the line. So this part is going to be my bust cut. Then on the bust cut, I'm going to take my tape and measure out 2 inches. So I'm going to take out 2 inches. You can see I placed my tape on the line of my under bust. Then take out 2 inches. And also the same thing on the half length. I'll take out 2 inches. And also do the same thing on the same line and take out 2 inches. So after doing that, I'm going to connect the lines. I'm going to draw a straight line to meet the lines. Then after that, the point here, I'm going to take my ruler and draw a line to meet the line on the under bust. So I'm going to blend it in. Remember, no pointy lines. So you can see for this part, I'm going to take my curve ruler. I placed it on the point, then connect it to this part. Then I'm going to connect it together. You can see there are no pointy lines. I'm going to retrace it to ensure there are no pointy edges. Okay. After carving out the breast cuts, the next thing for me to do is to take out my armhole dart. And the reason I'm taking out my armhole dart is to avoid bumpiness at the armhole side. So I'm going to place my tape on the 3 inches I took. After then, I'm going to take out 2 inches for that. So you can see from the 3 inches I took up here, then I took out 2 inches for that. This is to avoid bumpiness at the armhole side. Then after that, I'm going to connect the point to the bust point like this. Okay, you can see. Then after connecting, the next thing I'm going to do is to increase my armhole line. If you notice that times when you decide to join your two pieces together, so when you want to join your center piece and your bust cut together, you notice that the bust cut is a bit shorter than the center piece. So to avoid that, I'm going to place my tape here, then I'm going to take out 2 inches, like the 2 inches that I took here. I'm going to take it and mark it out. So I'm going to extend this dart line by 2 inches. You can see the way I place my tape. I place it at the point of the same line, then I mark out my 2 inches. And after doing that, I'm going to mark out another armhole measurement. So this is how I'm going to place my curve ruler and mark a new armhole line. You can see. So this line is going to be my new armhole line. So by the time I finish joining, the center piece and the bust cut is going to align together. So I'm going to cut this place out. On this place, I'm going to cut it out, and I'm also going to cut this part out. And I'm also going to cut this part out at the end of the day. The next thing for me to do is to take out my measurement. So I'm going to place my tape on the center front, then take out my bust measurement. Our bust measurement is 33 divided by 4, that will be 8.5. Then I'm going to add extra 2 inches for seam allowance. So 8.25 plus seam allowance is going to be 10.25. So I'm going to just mark 10.5. Then I'll come down to the waistline. Our waistline is 26. 26 divided by 4, that will be 6.5. And remember, I took out 2 inches for the bust cut. I'm going to add it to it, that will make it 8.5. Then another 2 inches extra for the same allowance, that will be 10.5. So I'll be taking 10.5 on the waistline and also on the same line. I'll also take the same 10.5 inches on the under bust line. Then after that, I'm going to connect the lines together. Okay. So after taking out the measurements, the next thing for me to do is to cut out my pattern. Then I'll start by cutting out my neck piece. Then I'll move on to the shoulder slope. Then after that, I'll be cutting out my center piece first before I move on to the bust cut. You can see. You can see this is my center piece. Okay. Then I'll move on to cut my bust cuts. So this is my new armhole after I extended by 2 inches. And after that, I'm going to cut that out. While cutting, ensure there are no pointy edges or pointy lines. While cutting, ensure there are no pointy lines, like I said. Okay, so as you can see, this is our center piece and this is our bust cut. You can see how it came out beautifully. By the time you add your wording or your stay to it, it's going to come out really nice. This is the two piece. By the time I join, it's going to be in line with this. I hope you understand, and if you have any question, you can type it in the comment section. I'm going to attend to those questions. It came out really nice, and this is how to draft a princess bustier pattern. This is how to go about it. And the next thing I'm going to do is to cut the back pattern. And as for the back, I'm going to take the same length. So the length for my front pattern was 17. I took out 17, so I'm going to take the same 17 here. The first thing I'm going to do for the back piece is to take out my zip allowance, which is going to be 1.5. So I'm going to take 1.5 all through. 1.5, 1.5. Of course, you can take more than 1.5. You can decide to take 2 inches, 1 inch, depends on what you want to work with. So I took 1.5 for zipper allowance, rather. Zipper allowance or zip allowance. So on this line, this point is the length of the half length. That is half length for same allowance is 17. This is 17 inches. Then after that, this is going to be my zipper allowance. Like I said, I can decide to insert the princess darts for the back, or just decide to insert the normal darts. So from the zip allowance line, I'm going to take out my shoulder to shoulder measurement, which is 14 divided by 2, that will be 7. I took out 7 inches. Then to take my chest line measurement or armhole line, I'm going to add 1 inch for the shoulder slope. I'm going to add it to the back also. Then I'll be taking out 8 inches instead of 7. Then I'll draw a straight line to indicate my line. So after that, I'll take my bust point line, which is 9. I'll take that also. So I'm going to indicate my line. This is my chest line, this is my bust point, and this is the same line. Then after that, I'll take my half length measurement, which is 15. So I'll run a line across it to indicate it. So we are cutting the normal dart. I don't need to indicate my under bust measurement. So after that, I'll measure 7 inches. Same thing I took on the shoulder, I'm going to take it here. Mark out 7 inches. Then after taking that 7 inches, I'm going to connect it. Okay, I'm going to connect it to this line. Remember I said there's difference between the front armhole and the back armhole. So as for the back armhole, before then, I'm going to take out my neck width and the neck depth. Depends on what you want to work with. You can decide to work with a wider neck or a wider neck depth. Depends on what you want to work with. For this part, I'm just going to indicate 3 for the neck width, then 2 inches or same 3 inches for the neck. Then you can decide to make it 5, 6, depends on what you want to work with. Then after that, I'm going to use my French curve to draw out the neck. Then after that, I'll indicate my shoulder slant, which is 1 inch. Then I'll connect the ruler to the edge of the neck, then take off my 1 inch. And after doing that, I'm going to measure out to take out my armhole measurements. I'm going to divide the armhole into 2, which is 7 divided by 2, that would be 3.5. Then from that point, I'm going to come out by 0.5. You know, for the front pattern, I went in by 0.5, but for the back pattern, I'm going to go out by 0.5. Then after must have done that, I'm going to place my tape. I'm going to place my curve ruler and connect it together. Okay. So you can see that is my back armhole measurement. Then for the dart, I'm going to come here. On the bust point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. On the bust point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Then after that, for this back pattern, we still have to use our bust span for the dart measurement. So on the bust span, I'm going to take my bust span for the nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 divided by 2, that will be 4. Then remember I said on the bust point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So also take the same bust span on the waistline and also do the same thing on the same line. Take the same 4 inches. And after I must have done that, I'll connect my lines. So after connecting the lines, I'll take my tape and take out 1 inch for the dart. So I'll take 0.5 inch on the right side and also take 0.5 inch on the left side. After I must have done that, I'll take my ruler, place it on the point here and connect it to the points here. Okay, I'll do the same thing on the left side also. Connect it to the line. So you can see, this is my darts. So after drafting the darts, I'm going to place my tape on the chest line and take out the same measurement I took for the front dart. So my bust measurement is 33 by 4, that's 8.25 plus 2 inches, that's 10.25. But I took out, remember I took 10.5 for the front pattern. Then I'll do the same thing on the waistline. This is the waistline or the half length. But remember, for this part, I took out 1 inch for the dart, and my waist measurement is 26 divided by 4, that's 6.5, plus the 1 inch I took for the dart, that will be 7.5. Then plus 2 inches extra for the allowance, that will be 9.5. So for this part, I'll be taking 9.5 on the waistline. I'll take the same 9.5 on the same line. So I'll connect from there. I'm going to connect my lines like this. So you can see this is how it's going to come out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out my pattern. So I'm going to cut it out. you can see, this is my darts, this is my zipper allowance, which is 1.5, and this is my shoulder, my armhole, and this is finer back piece. So this is the dart, this is where I'm going to sew on. I don't need to cut that out because I'm going to sew on it. I'm going to stitch that part. So you can see, this is how the neck is going to be. So this is my front piece, my center piece, and this is the breast cut. As you can see, it came out really nice. So I hope you find this class interesting. If you have questions, can decide to drop it for me on the comment section. I'm going to take that. So we have come to the end of the class. This is my breast cut. You can see there are no pointy lines, and if you check the center piece also, there are no pointy edges. You can see every time I join it, is going to be the same thing as the center piece. So I hope you find this class interesting. Please don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and comment below. And also I will be dropping another method you can use to draft out your princess dart bustier cut. So this is method 1. So I'll be dropping method 2 in another class. So thank you for watching. See you in my next class. Bye.